Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to start with a quick reminder, and I'm using myself as a test, to speak directly into the microphones as you're speaking, to speak slowly and clearly, and I think that'll help with the technology issues we were struggling with before. Now, Mary Bucci's giving me the thumbs up in the back. Does that mean, Dave, you can hear me, Mary, everybody? Okay, great. So let's move forward. We're about to start our presentations related to the 2015 census testing activities. As you, I'm sure, have figured out by now, 2015 is a very busy year for us. We were very ambitious in planning 5 tests for 2015. As I mentioned earlier, we've already conducted a simulation exercise in relation to re-engineering our field operations. We completed the address validation test in February, 2 components that were instrumental in helping us with our re-engineering address canvassing decision. As we progress this morning, you're going to hear about our other tests, but before we go there, I'd just like to remind you of the purpose and the timeline for these tests. Okay. As Ann mentioned, we're focusing significant efforts on reaching the conclusion of our 2020 Census Operational Plan, the preliminary design decisions related to our cost-saving innovation areas and some of our core programmatic work. In terms of the address validation test, again, that had 2 components. The MAF model validation test was really used to inform the performance of both our models and the methods that we're planning to determine our in-field and in-office address canvassing workloads. In regard to the partial block canvassing test, we were analyzing whether or not we could use aerial imagery to help us determine portions of blocks that we could in-field canvass as opposed to going around the whole block. You heard about these things before. Come the next PMR, we will have detailed results to share with you, and so we're not going to focus on that test today. We talked a little bit about the optimizing self-response test. We're continuing to test our Notify Me option and non-ID response, allowing people to respond without a unique census identification code to determine if we can optimize self-response and internet self-response rates that way. As part of the optimizing self-response test, we're researching how advertising, outreach, promotion, and partnerships can engage and motivate respondents to respond. As part of our utilizing administrative records and the 2015 census test, we're researching the use of those records and third-party data to help reduce the non-response follow-up workload. And finally, as part of re-engineering field operations and the 2015 census test in Maricopa County, we're testing the use of technology to help manage those tasks that were traditionally performed by humans, that operational control system to help delineate the action and order of going to non-responding households. And again, we're revisiting our field management structure as part of this process. Next slide, please. You've seen this timeline before. We've presented it at the past 2 PMRs. This is the 2015 census testing timeline. We kicked it off in September with the address validation test. April 1st was our census day for both the OSR test and the 2015 census test. And then we'll conclude this year with the national content test. And Mary Ann and Jenny are going to provide you more information about both of these tests right now. I won't pause for questions. I'll turn it over to them, and we'll save the questions for the end. Now I'd like to introduce Mary Ann Chapin to provide an update on the status of our 2015 census test.
Good morning. I'm pleased to be here this morning to report to you on our status of the 2015 census test. Readiness and implementation activities are well underway. In the upcoming slides, we'll share with you our progress toward a successful 2015 census test. Specifically, we'll review the objectives of the test, refresh everyone's memory on some of the site test specifics, and review key milestones. We will share updates on the readiness of our field management and our efforts to recruit and hire the staff, who will perform the data collection. And finally, we'll update you on our readiness to conduct non-response follow-up, evaluation follow-up, and bring your own device testing. Our focus for the 2015 census test is on testing innovations and collecting data that will inform preliminary design decisions for the 2020 census. In the 2015 census test, we will test the re-engineering of roles, responsibilities, and infrastructure for conducting field data collection. We will test the feasibility of fully utilizing the advantages of planned automation and available real-time data to transform the efficiency and effectiveness of our data collection operations. We will further our exploration of using data about our households that has already been provided to the government or that is available through third-party data to reduce the non-response follow-up workload and increase the overall non-response follow-up productivity through the use of administrative records, field reengineering, and adaptive design. We will test the operational implementation of Bring Your Own Device as an option for our enumerators, and we'll use focus groups to explore the reactions to our contact methods, to administrative records use, privacy and confidentiality concerns, and how we might address those concerns. As a reminder, the 2015 census test will be conducted in Maricopa County, Arizona. Maricopa County was selected for 3 primary reasons: the diversity of the population, including a high Hispanic population, mobility, in that it has a relatively transient population and could have potentially high vacancy rates, and its close proximity of both urban and suburban areas. Having these characteristics in a test site will allow us to more fully understand the impact of our new methods to assign and manage staff, as well as allowing us to test the quality of administrative records with such a diverse population. The sample blocks groups for the test were identified based on this diversity of socioeconomic characteristics. The block groups in Maricopa, or Central Maricopa, shown in blue, were selected for their high concentrations of both vacant housing units and Hispanic populations. The block groups that are located in the cities of Chandler and Mesa, shown in yellow and pink respectively, were identified as areas that had higher 2010 census response rates and tend to have lower mobility. And the block groups in the outer ring on the northern border of Maricopa County, shown in green, were selected to allow us to test in more remote locations. The Maricopa census test includes approximately 165,000 addresses. Approximately 161,000 of those addresses are in the initial self-response universe, and another approximately 4,500 addresses are included for the Bring Your Own Device testing. The Bring Your Own Device addresses were not included in the initial self-response universe. These addresses will be sent an advance letter about possible contact during the Bring Your Own Device component of the test. I would like to stress that the focus of this 2015 census test is on non-response follow-up and the methods and technologies to reduce the workload and increase the efficiency and effectiveness of conducting the non-response follow-up operation. To that end, the initial universe and the opportunity to self-respond using the internet push strategy enable us to get to the non-responding universe. As of yesterday, our self-response rate in Maricopa County was 29.73%. The non-response follow-up sample sizes reflect self-response rates, subsampling, and administrative record identification removal before non-response follow-up starts. The 20,000 addresses is a target, and the actual sample size in each of the panels may be lower or higher. So there are 3 panels in the 2015 census test: a control panel and 2 experimental panels, one being the full removal panel and the other being the hybrid removal panel. The control panel will employ similar non-response follow-up procedures to those used in the 2010 census. Work will be managed out of the local census office using a system and approach that, again, is similar to that was used in the 2010 census. The full removal panel implements an adaptive design contact strategy and will reduce the initial non-response follow-up workload to exclude any addresses identified as vacant or occupied based on administrative records. Remaining non-response cases will be visited at least once. In the hybrid removal panel, the initial non-response follow-up workload will be reduced to exclude any addresses identified as vacant using administrative records prior to any contact attempts being made. For all remaining addresses, enumerators will make one personal visit. After that initial attempt, the non-response follow-up workload will be further reduced to remove any addresses that could be enumerated using administrative records. The cases that still remain after the administrative records removal will receive at least one additional contact attempt. The work of the experimental panels will be controlled and managed out of the Area Operations Support Center in the Denver Regional Office using the Enhanced Operational Control System, or MOJO. All data collection will be automated using the Compass application on a handheld device. Seen on this slide are some of the key milestones associated with the 2015 census test. Those shown with a check mark are complete. Those shown with an open circle are upcoming activities. You can see that the initial mailing and the mailing of the 2 reminder postcards has occurred. Self-response is underway, as mentioned earlier, and the mailing of the final reminder and the paper questionnaire is scheduled for later this week, and all systems are nearing readiness. As an update, I can tell you that a check mark can now be placed next to the recruiting line. We have stopped our recruiting efforts as of earlier this week. The message on the recruiting hotline has been updated to say thank you, but that we are no longer accepting applications. And the field data collection for the non-response follow-up is scheduled from May 15th through June 23rd. We are pleased to announce that we are well on our way to having the management structure and staff in place to complete the data collection for the 2015 census test. For the experimental panels, the Area Operations Support Center is up and running in the Denver Regional Office. We have selected all 16 of the local supervisors of operations, and selection of enumerators is underway. The enumerators have begun to report to the 12 designated post offices for fingerprinting, swearing in, and having their photo taken for their ID. For the control panel, the local census office in Maricopa County opened on January 26th. We have selected all 6 of our field operations supervisors and have selected most of our crew leaders and crew leader assistants. And in addition, we have begun the selection of the enumerators for the control panel. Training on the operational control system that is similar to what was used in 2010 for the local census office staff is occurring this week, with training for the field operations supervisors scheduled for next week. The 700 handheld devices that the enumerators will use for data collection have arrived in the local census office. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, the recruiting of enumerators has concluded. We did exceed our overall recruiting goals in the Maricopa site. We have taken a number of steps to ensure our readiness for conducting non-response follow-up. We have completed the first round of user acceptance testing on March 20th. The user acceptance testing tested the capabilities of the Compass, the data collection application that will be resident on the handheld device, as well as integration with key systems. Issues were identified, documented, resolved, and retested. A second user acceptance test is planned for April 15th through April 21st. We have conducted 2 dry runs of the onboarding process to work through all of the steps and system integration that will occur during the selection, hiring, and training of enumerators. The training materials for the control panel have been sent to print, and everything is set for an on-time delivery. The automated training for the experimental panels has been dry run and is ready to go. So at this point, we'd like to take a pause and actually show you an excerpt from one of our training modules.
Welcome to Module 5. The prior purpose of the census and its security and confidentiality. Welcome to Module 5. The prior modules gave you a detailed picture of the purpose of the census and its security and confidentiality. You also reviewed basic census procedures.
As indicated all along, you will be following scripts for most of your work. Before we can begin to introduce you to those scripts and how you will work with them, we have to introduce you to the smartphone you will be using that contains them.
By the end of this module, you will be able to explain how to use the features in COMPASS, which is an acronym for Census Operations Mobile Platform for Adaptive Services and Solutions.
Explain how to access case management information.
And summarize the features of the COMPASS Maps application.
Knowing these things will help you conduct your job more effectively and efficiently. This module will take approximately 35 minutes to complete.
Excuse me, I was syncing my smartphone. Syncing is the process used to exchange data with a secure census database. It happens automatically, but I make it a point to sync my phone occasionally, especially when I'm in areas where data connectivity is poor, to make sure all data are transmitted.
Now we can begin. Up to now, we've given you an overview of why and how you conduct the census. Before you can go more deeply into these and other topics, we have to introduce you to the tool you will use. Most of your work will be conducted on your smartphone. Your smartphone provides you with your active case list for the day, the script you use for your interviews, housing and respondent information, maps that help you navigate your route, access to payroll, ability to enter your work availability, access to job aids and other useful materials, and access to your supervisor. Knowing how to use your smartphone is critical to your work.
After you log on to your phone, you'll find the main application you use, COMPASS. COMPASS stands for the Census Operations Mobile Platform for Adaptive Services and Solutions. This is the COMPASS login screen. After logging into COMPASS, the dashboard is the first screen you will see. Note that the COMPASS screens you will see have a red background. This indicates that the COMPASS application is in training mode. When you use the live COMPASS application for enumeration, it will have a blue background.
Okay.
When you tap the compass icon, it will display the application's login screen. Enter your username and password to log in. After you log in, a dashboard screen will display. You have 3 options to select from the COMPASS dashboard: case list, time and expense, and work availability.
Okay, that just gives you a flavor for what our automated training modules are going to look like. Now I'll move on to our readiness for conducting evaluation follow-up. During the months of July and August, enumerators, specially trained on re-interviewing techniques, will conduct the evaluation follow-up operation. The 2 major objectives of the evaluation follow-up test are to obtain the most accurate status of the housing unit on census day and to identify people associated with the occupied housing unit during the calendar year, as well as their timing of association with that housing unit, in an attempt to understand and resolve where we have discrepancies. This will help determine the most accurate household status and roster for our census day. The evaluation follow-up sample will consist of approximately 5,000 cases subsampled from the non-response follow-up control panel, where housing unit information collected during our interview differs or conflicts with administrative records information that we have for that housing unit. Training for the evaluation follow-up enumerators will begin in early July, and we will conduct the data collection from in mid-July through the early mid-August timeframe. As with non-response follow-up, in advance of going to production, we'll conduct user acceptance testing. The user acceptance testing for the evaluation follow-up is scheduled for April 29th through May 12th. Finally, also conducted as an additional non-response follow-up data collection activity, we will test Bring Your Own Device. Associated with Bring Your Own Device, the Census Bureau has performed a risk assessment. That the inputs to the risk assessment included the acceptable use policy and securing the application and data using the software development kit. In addition, penetration testing will be performed in support of the 2016 census test. Testing is occurring with the Compass application on both government-furnished equipment as well as Bring Your Own Device. We will conduct the testing for Bring Your Own Device between June 15th and June 27th. Prior to production, we are planning a dry run of the onboarding process associated with Bring Your Own Device to work through and nail down the steps that are necessary to ensure that everything will work. Enumerators will be recruited from those who have participated in the non-response follow-up control panel and who have a mobile device that meets the operating system specifications for the iOS and Android platforms. And the enumerators will use their own device for this data collection. This is a technical implementation. In other words, the data collected on the device is not driving the test. The driver is the process for utilizing someone's personally owned device. The objectives of this test include the design, development, deployment, and support of secure software solutions that can be installed on an employee's personally owned mobile device, conducting interviews with respondents using the enumerator-owned mobile device, and capturing lessons learned for future operations, including focus groups with a subset of respondents, a questionnaire for enumerators, and collection of feedback from the local census office staff. The feedback from the enumerators and the local census office will be used to shape non-response follow-up duties using Bring Your Own Device in our future census tests.
Let's pause for a minute and ask if there are any questions for Mary Ann, please. Tricia.
One of the bullets said that,
I'll repeat.
one of the bullets said that the control panel is going to be compared with the administrative records. And that was similarly done in the 2014 test. What then? What happens then? With the results of the comparison.
Well, this test is going to be key to helping us get to the point where at the end of this fiscal year, we hope to be making decisions, yes or no, with regard to our ability to use administrative records for, one, the identification of vacants, and two, our ability to use administrative records for the enumeration of non-responding households. So this is another data point that we'll have in addition to what we have from our earlier tests to inform that decision.
Is there some kind of threshold defined? You don't have to tell me what it is, but how when the decision is based on some percentage of correctness, I assume, or or is there some kind of refinement that can be made in the models or in the decision-based approach or the rule-based approach?
So I expect that we'll continue to refine our process even beyond the completion of the 2015 census test as it relates to what ultimately is implemented as kind of the approach that, assuming that our decision is that we will use administrative records, that we'll continue to refine that approach as we near 2020 in terms of not only the method that we use with administrative records, but also the sources of information that we will also use that forms our administrative records data set.
That's, Marianne, pause for a second. I agree with everything Marianne has said. I want to add a further clarification to that. For me, one of the key points coming out of the 15 test is, in terms of comparison, are really the two experimental panels and the differences that we're making. They're the extremes. We have the hybrid approach, which is using a variety of techniques, and then we have the full administrative panel. So we're really looking to understand the differences between a full administrative record removal versus some sort of hybrid approach. And that's a key documentation and a key lesson for us coming out of this particular comparison.
Is it too much to ask in this venue, which it could be, but when you decide to remove a case because of administrative records, there's a match, to what degree is that, what is that match contingent on?
So you're getting to the question of what do we mean when we say good administrative records and how are we making determinations, and I think that's a much longer conversation than, which we're happy to do. Tom Yuli's over there and I'm sure he'd like to expound at great length about that, but it may be more than what we have time for today. This presentation was really meant to give us a high-level picture of where we are with the test and where we're going. Having a broader discussion on how we're utilizing administrative records and commercial data, as well as the decisions behind that use, is certainly something that we can undertake.
Yeah, I struggle every day to try to figure this out, so I gave it a shot.
Any other questions for Mary Ann? Dan?
Just one quick thing. Just to clarify, the BYOD panel in there, is it going on at the same time as the main NRFU follow-up or staggered in time? Okay.
The BYOD testing will overlap with the end of the non-response follow-up operation by approximately 2 weeks.
All right. I just missed that. And but the content that's going to be done on the enumerator provided devices is just the regular interview. It's not blending in anything.
We'll be using the Compass application just as we are for the main non-response follow-up.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to move now to the presentation related to the 2015 National Content Test, and Jenny Kim will be sharing that information with us this morning.
Okay, thank you, Deirdre. Good morning. We're excited to update you on our ongoing work as we prepare for the 2015 National Content Test, which you have heard referred to as NCT. That will begin later this year. When we met with you in January, we shared a detailed look of the test that included the key content areas being tested, the layout of our example questionnaire designs, and the different approaches to our contact strategies. We've been busy over the last couple of months with our qualitative research efforts and refining our question designs, as well as developing our data collection instruments and reviewing comments from the public about our test plans. So in today's session, we'll provide you updates on these recent activities and won't go into detail about the information that was shared in January. However, I do want to remind you that all this information are available online. I will begin with a quick refresher on the NCT overview. It's important to keep in mind that the NCT will be our primary mid-decade opportunity to test our content strategies prior to making decisions about the 2020 content. NCT will be a self-response test. We will use a nationally representative sample of approximately 1.2 million households. We will test our key content areas related to race and Hispanic origin, relationship, and within household coverage. We will deploy various contact strategies to optimize self-response, and the NCT will include a re-interview operation of approximately 100,000 cases. As you can see in the timeline on the slide here, we will begin operations in late summer of this year with the census date of September 1st, and the data collection is scheduled to be completed by the end of November. As a reminder, the NCT will be testing 3 key content areas. So you can see here, the race and Hispanic origin questions We'll focus on our several key dimensions that include the questionnaire format, looking at the separate versus the combined question approach, the response categories, looking at ways to tabulate data for respondents of the Middle Eastern, North African, and Arab heritage, also known as MENA, as we refer to it. Also, the wording of the instructions and the terminology to optimize detailed reporting, as well as improving respondents' understanding that more than one group may be selected. We will also be using web-based technology to enhance our question designs and to optimize reporting of detailed racial and ethnic groups. The relationship question will examine the most effective way to gather information on relationship among household members. We'll be comparing the 2010 relationship response categories with the new relationship response categories that expand the husband or wife and the unmarried partner categories to distinguish between same-sex and opposite-sex relationships. The within household coverage question will examine the most effective way to help respondents provide the most effective household roster. We'll be testing the rule-based approach and the question-based approach in which the respondents are not shown the residence rule instructions and are asked to create an initial roster and then subsequently guided by additional questions to identify potentially missing people. Another thing I should point out is that in addition to testing the key content areas, we'll continue testing our various contact strategies to optimize self-response, particularly via the internet. As you can see on this table here, we have different panels that will test the timing of the reminders, the delivery of the paper questionnaires at various points in the response process, ways to further encourage self-response even after the questionnaire mailing. We'll also be looking at the impact of sending a postcard at the first mailing instead of a letter, as you can see in panel 7, not sending a mail questionnaire at all, panel 8, and using email to supplement postal mail. We shared at our last PMR that the Federal Register pre-submission notice had been published and that we were in the 60-day public comment period. During this time, we informed National Advisory Committee members, other stakeholders, researchers, and community leaders about the release of the notice. In addition, we shared this message during public briefings and meetings. This effort helped garner a large volume of feedback from the public. We received 4,550 submissions about our test plans. The submissions came in from all around the country, from individuals, organizations, as well as groups of people who collaborated together to submit their comments on the NCT plans. These submissions generally were comprised of 1 or 2 comments about the test, but many of these were multi-page letters with several comments on different aspects of the test. So in total, I missed my cue. In total, we received 13,116 comments. So all of these comments were reviewed by Census Bureau experts and categorized into various topics, and the responses were drafted to address each of these comments and have been included in the OMB package that's currently under review. All right, let's look at the types of the comments that we received. Within the submissions that we received, all but one focused primarily on testing of race and origin or testing a new category for MENA respondents. Now, looking at the breakdown of these comments, the vast majority of the 13,000 plus comments were related to testing a MENA category. The largest set of these comments expressed strong support for testing a MENA category and detailing why these data are critical for the MENA community. Another set of comments expressed strong disagreement with the classification of MENA as white. As you're aware, this is how the MENA responses are currently classified in federal statistics on race. Another major set of comments advised that the MENA population is racially diverse. Other comments related to race and ethnicity included a concern that disaggregated data for Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders will not be published, as well as comments about the retention of detailed checkboxes for Asians and Pacific Islanders and the quality of data for detailed Hispanic groups. A major concern for some members of the Asian and Pacific Islander communities was in which the detailed groups can respond and how they can be tabulated. And some members of the Hispanic community stressed the importance of how the redesigned race and ethnicity questions must not diminish the quality of data for Hispanic detailed groups. A number of comments expressed support for the combined question approach. Now, the majority of the comments about the relationship question expressed support for the same-sex relationship response categories, and the comments about the within household coverage primarily expressed the importance of testing the coverage question beyond the internet instrument. Most of the comments related to the web-based collection and contact strategies was ensuring that the Census Bureau develop a strong mobile platform. Comments related to the sample design mainly advised that we oversample various small population groups. And comments related to language assistance included providing assistance in additional languages and multiple languages, as well as including Asian languages in the contact strategies and ensuring high-quality translations. In summarizing our recent accomplishments, we have reviewed and provided the responses to the public comments, and they are included in the OMB package that has been provided to the Department of Commerce in preparation for delivering the test plans for OMB clearance. We have conducted qualitative research on the questionnaire content, and we're currently reviewing and applying the findings to the questionnaires. We have continued the refinement of our question designs, as well as development of the data collection instruments. In the coming months, we will be completing the development of the data collection instruments. I'll walk through the three types of instruments. With the internet instrument, we are currently conducting a walkthrough of the instrument specification to ensure that our programmers understand the content variations that are being tested. We will be conducting usability testing that's scheduled in July, and we are on target for deployment in August. The re-interview instruments, one for race and origin and the other for the coverage question, we have completed the walkthrough of the instrument specifications and the programming is underway. We are on target for deployment in September. The paper questionnaire, we are currently conducting our final walkthrough of the questionnaires, and we're on target for deployment in August as well. The complex sample design research is currently underway and is tentatively scheduled to be completed in June. The print contract, we have a target award date in May, and we're currently working with the U.S. Government Printing Office to create the contract. And last but not the least, we will be conducting the systems testing that are aligned with our instrument development schedule. We're excited that the plans for the NCT are progressing forward and hope that this briefing has given you a good overview of the updates and our steps forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Any questions? Okay, then we're right on time for our lunch break at noon. I'd like to invite you, if you haven't been here before, we have a cafeteria and a small cafe in what we refer to as the blue section of the building. As you walk out of this room and down the hallway, take a left. The cafeteria and cafe are right there. And we'll see you back here at 1 o'clock. Thank you.